We all know the story by now. You have to give up your Darth Revan for platoons, and at that point, it looks like all hope is lost for your Sith Empire characters. You're no longer able to use them. However, there is one leader who's actually really great for this.
Go for Papa Palpatine!
That's right, Papa Palpatine is to the rescue here, and he is amazing with your Sith Empire characters in the Territory Battle missions. Let's talk about it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. As you guys may have figured out by now, Emperor Palpatine is a fantastic leader to use in the Geonosis Territory Battle, especially if you have to give up your Darth Revan. This is a very, very interesting thing. It's actually going to be pretty important for a lot of people out there because a lot of guildmates will have to give up their Darth Revans to get those platoons, especially in the later phases. I think it's something like, 15 Darth Revans in Phase 4. So you do have to give up a significant number of Darth Revans, and with that comes a thought that, might as well give up your whole Sith Empire team because then you can't make them work. That is not at all the case. If you have to donate your Darth Revan, you can run a team very much like this. Now, we'll talk about Darth Malak in a moment. I know a lot of you don't have him. You're probably going to see some people typing in comments about how they don't have Malak. We'll discuss him here in a moment. But the important thing here is the leadership on Palpatine, where he gives the bonus potency and max health to Empire and Sith allies. Pretty much all the Sith Empire characters, except for HK-47, are Sith as well, so they will gain the max health, they'll gain the max potency. Additionally, Sith allies, when they inflict debuffs, they gain 20% 20% health, and Empire allies gain 20% turn meter. So, if you do not have Revan, you will have to take out HK-47. He doesn't really have any synergy with Palpatine. Throw in someone like Grand Moff Tarkin. Now, Darth Malak, obviously a lot of people don't have Darth Malak. If you do get Darth Malak, he is obviously he is the best character to use in this team. If you do not have Darth Malak, people are going to be tempted to use Sith Trooper. Don't do it. Sith Trooper is okay, but there's a far more viable option for you if you are going to use this kind of team. Not Shore Trooper, Stormtrooper. Why Stormtrooper? Well, for the simple fact that he gets a lot of bonus defense already, 40% per, we'll get this, 40% for each living Empire ally. I almost started to recite the Zeta there. So with 3 Empire allies, it's 120% bonus defense, and then his taunt ability, whenever he takes damage while taunting, he removes turn meter from the enemy. Now this goes back into the the leadership with Palpatine. We'll get some bonus potency with Sith Marauder as well. Bastila, if you do have the Zeta on her, she'll give a lot of bonus potency to Palpatine. And this is honestly one of the bigger things here, is that especially in these later phases, there is a super high amount of tenacity on the enemy teams.
I ain't no short.
With a team like this, you can really pump up the potency on your team and actually inflict those debuffs, and that is a big, big deal because a lot of your dark side teams can't apply a lot of debuffs because of the super high tenacity on the enemy team. With a team like this, with Emperor Palpatine with the bonus potency on the lead, you have the bonus potency on Palpatine with Bastila and her Zeta. Grand Moff Tarkin gets stacking potency. Sith Marauder can give potency up to your team. There's a lot of bonus potency you can float around on this team and actually land a lot of debuffs. And in terms of how viable this team is, we have cleared phases, we've cleared all ways of a combat mission. Big thank you to FN2187 and Your Face, both officers from my guild, Trillion Empire. They both gave me footage of them running this team, and they both said it worked really well. I've talked to other people who also used Emperor Palpatine with a similar team like this. They said it worked great too. A lot of them were using Malak. Not a lot of people were using Stormtrooper because most people up here at my level have Malak, but they did say Stormtrooper is a viable option if you don't have Malak. Now, in terms of modding, Emperor Palpatine, obviously, speed and potency, it's standard mods on everybody. Stack up potency, maybe a little bit of offense on Tarkin, and then go for speed and potency on Bastila, just like normal. Crit chance, crit damage, lots of offense on Sith Marauder, and then for Malak and Stormtrooper, load them up with protection. Now, if you do have to use Stormtrooper, one thing to keep in mind is that you're going to have to keep him healed up. So if this happens, you will have to take out Grand Moff Tarkin and throw in someone like Grand Admiral Thrawn. This is the problem, this is the drawback of not having Malak. you're now having to put someone else in like Thrawn to keep that stormtrooper alive, keep your tank alive. So you do have to worry about that. So if you don't have Malak for this team, you will have to use someone like Thrawn to keep that tank alive. Though, I mean, it's not that Thrawn is a bad character anyways, it's just you're not going to have the turn meter reduction like you would with Tarkin, so you do have to make some sacrifices if you have Malak. Obviously, Malak is the best in slot character for the tank here, but Stormtrooper is a very much viable option if you don't have Malak. The overall strategy here is to use Sith Marauder and his Saber Throw to time it with a lot of debuffs going out with your team, aka the Fear on Bastila Shan and the AoE Shock / Stun from Emperor Palpatine. The potency up from the Saber Throw with Marauder is going to be very helpful for those, because if you can get Fear on the enemy team, you can then apply a lot of debuffs after the Fear expires, and there's a lot of debuffs that come with those who aren't affected by the Fear, and the Stun from Palpatine is going to be very, very useful here. And if you can constantly apply shock to the enemy team, you can eventually get to the point where there is going to be 4 or 5 shocks on the enemy team. Palpatine has gained a lot of bonus turn meter because his basic gives bonus turn meter for each shocked enemy. This is something that goes back to the days of the Chirpatine team back in Phase 3 of the Hiroga AT. Man, that was way back when. But the overall effect here is to basically spread out that shock with Palpatine if possible. The shock prevents buffs and it also prevents bonus turn meter gains on the enemy team, and then use that with combination of Bastila and her Wild Lightning ability, where she can do massive amounts of damage to the enemy team, and then use the potency up from Marauder to make sure they land those debuffs. Grand Admiral Thrawn or Tarkin, based on who you bring in. Tarkin can do a lot of turn meter reduction, so if the enemy's starting to go, or you have someone who's about to get off a big ability like Arc Trooper with his Daze, which is a big threat to this kind of team, you can use a turn meter reduction from Tarkin to get that through. There is a lot of stacking potency with Tarkin, and he also gains damage on his AoE ability based on his max potency, so you can charge up using his basic attack. His special will give him potency up. If you have the Zeta unique on Tarkin, he also gains bonus potency per debuffed enemy. I don't know how many people actually have that, but that is something else you can use to help buff up Tarkin and make him do even more damage. And if you are willing and even daring to do it, you can actually save the Tarkin AoE until the final wave of the fight, because the stacking potency and damage for that special carries through each wave of the phase, just like it does in the raid. There's times where people did well over 1 million damage on the Rancor with Tarkin's AoE just for the fun of it. So Tarkin you can use as an emergency turn meter removal, or use him to charge up a big AoE blast at the end of the fight to reduce turn meter and also deal a significant amount of damage to the enemy team. That's how you can handle Tarkin. Thrawn, you can use him to fracture a vital target if someone is going to be constantly taunting or call an assist, or God forbid there's an Arc Trooper, you can fracture and then slowly pick off Arc Trooper or go for other people. And of course, Sith Marauder gets a lot of stacking offense. This is something I covered in my video with getting him to gear 13 and how he can one-shot Malak. With a lot of debuffs on the enemy team and maybe even on your team, he gains 2% offense per debuff on every character on the battlefield. So the more debuffs on the team, the more debuffs on everybody, the more offense and crit chance he gets. And then for every buff on the field, he gets stacking health steal and other survivable effects as well. So if you're getting a lot of potency up on your team, a lot of buffs, there's defense up from Stormtrooper. If you are getting offense up or health up or anything that Emperor Palpatine could also give to your team, there's a lot of buffs that could help also boost the survivability on Marauder. Overall, it's not as clean, it's not as efficient as Darth Revan. It's not going to just run over teams like you would get with Darth Revan, because you don't have the stacking offense like you would get with Ferocity from the Revan lead. But the Emperor Palpatine team is much more of a methodical kind of team. It's about you being strategic, slowly working your way through the team, and slowly taking out characters one by one. You can do some massive damage with Bastila and with Tarkin, and maybe Sith Marauder as well, but it's a much more methodical and strategic kind of team. It's something that you're going to have to take your time and be patient with. Remember, there's no time limits when it comes to battles and territory battles, so take your time with those combat missions, and also make sure you always put your best mods on your characters. There's no mod lock for territory battles, so make sure you're always switching to your best mods, which are more than likely your arena mods. whatever they are. That's why I didn't really go into a lot of detail, because I can't give a good guideline as to what you want to go for. Just put your best mods for those characters on them and then run through the combat mission. That's your best way to make sure you're successful in these missions. But overall, you are getting a great team here, and I cannot stress that enough. This is perfect for all those people who have to give up their Darth Revans, and that is a big deal because there's a lot of them you have to give up. So having a viable option for a team here that allows you to give up Darth Revan without the fear of then having to discard the rest of your Sith Empire characters, that is very valuable. I mean, HK-47, you can throw him under a droid team with Grievous if possible, or just go ahead and give him up for 4 platoons, but you're still able to field at least something with your Sith Empire characters, and being able to salvage them without having to use that Darth Revan lead, that's great. This also does give you something very important if you do have Darth Malak, and hopefully that event comes back here very soon. In between Malak and Nihilus, this gives you 2 separate Annihilate abilities between 2 different teams. You have Darth Nihilus with your Traya teams, who can use Annihilate there, and then you have Darth Malak with this Palpatine Sith Empire team, where he can also use that Life Drain, and while he doesn't annihilate the character, he still does significant amount of damage, able to heal himself up, and he gets a lot of stacking offense. So he's still going to hit really hard once he starts getting that stacking offense. So you do get 2 separate Annihilate abilities across 2 separate teams here as well. That is also very important. So let me know down in the comments, what do you guys think? Are you guys excited to try a Palpatine and this kind of team in the next territory battle? Are you guys hesitant to really give up your Darth Revan still? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. As always, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Feel free to like, share, subscribe. Big thank you once again to FN2187 and Your Face from my guild for giving me the footage of their runs here in the territory battle for this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you guys later.